Okay, good morning. I want to call the Parks and Environmental Committee to order. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Alderman Vaccaro,
Present.
Alderwoman Tyus,
Present.
Alderwoman Martin, Alderwoman Navarro,
Present.
Alderman Todd,
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Here.
Alderwoman Peel,
Present.
Chairwoman Boyd.
Present.
7 present, you have quorum.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Just a little housekeeping. When you are saying present or speaking, please show yourself on the video for localities because that had been discussed previous. So I'm just asking everybody, speakers and all to please, if you have going to talk, please make sure that you release your video. On that note, we'll call for approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of, what was the last date meeting?
October the 27th.
Okay, I would move we approve the minutes of the October 27th meeting.
Second.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus,
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin, Alderwoman Navarro,
Aye.
Alderman Todd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel,
Aye.
Chairwoman Boyd.
Aye.
7
Okay. Okay, thank you. At this moment, we don't have any board bills and we don't have any resolutions to discuss. The topic that we have today, we have Dr. Dan Isom, and the committee has spoke on when we did the tours in regards to the Parks Rangers, their power that they have within our parks and the issues that they are being addressed with, the staffing issues, and how we can work to strengthen those two things to be addressed. One is we found out that, and I'm just going by hearsay, and so Dr. Isom and his staff can speak to let us know if it's a change. The park rangers technically don't have any power, only to write tickets. And so they don't have any power like the police to lock people up or to enforce the problems that are on the in parks. And so some of the issues that we are addressing in parks are now more police issues than park ranger issues. And I think when park rangers were created, that wasn't the issue back in the days of the park rangers. And so now it's escalating in regards to drug activity, deaths, heroin overdose, sexual assault within our parks. And so Dr. Isom, were you going to speak first?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just wanted to introduce the two supervisors over the marshals and the rangers, and I appreciate you allowing me to be excused. I think they could ask any questions you need, and then we can follow up with any additional information. But Lieutenant Amy Parker Stanton is over the park rangers. She is a lieutenant over the park rangers. There's one other sergeant that's under her, and I believe she has 5 park supervisors and then 26 rangers that are underneath her. And then Sergeant Scott Valentine has 2 officers under him assigned to the marshals, but he also has, I think, 23 authorized positions as marshals. They can speak to whether or not all those positions are filled at this point in time, but I can turn it over to them and they can answer any questions for the committee.
Okay, thank you. So per the process that with the changes we have done, people that are testifying or speaking for or against any issues have to be sworn in. And so if I would like to swear in the two that will be speaking and yourself, Dr. Isom. So do you all, okay, let me get this right. Do you all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Or do
Excuse
you?
me, point of
Okay.
order,
Okay,
point of order. You could do it group, but you really do need to say their names.
okay, all right. So, Dr. Dan Isom, do you swear to tell the truth and or amend the statement that you're about to make in the best to your ability?
I do, Madam Chair.
And all these say Daniel Isom. So, young man, could you tell me your name? Because I don't have your name on your screen. He's on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry, to Scott Valentine.
Scott Valentine, do you swear to tell the truth and or amend the statement you're about to make the best to your knowledge?
I do.
Okay. And young lady?
My name is Amy Parker Staten.
Amy Parker Statement, do you swear to tell the truth and or amend the statement you're about to make the best to your knowledge?
I do.
All right, thank you. All right, so Dr. Isom, you're on until you have to leave.
But I think what you indicated, Madam Chair, is correct. We do have issues going on in the parks that are much more significant than we've had in the past. The powers of the marshals are not the same as police. Although, you know, when needed, we do have police officers who work in the parks. So, I mean, I guess there is a discussion about, you know, what additional powers they should have. That would require them to be post-certified as police officers and go through the police academy. That will create some issues in terms of additional pay, of course. And then, you know, whether or not they actually would be considered rangers or marshals at that point in time, and they would be basically police officers in that status. So they do perform more of a security function, both marshals and rangers. But we do have officers who supplement those activities in parks around the city. So I could, you know, the lieutenant and the sergeant could speak more directly to some of the issues that they're facing and the challenges with the personnel that they have.
All right. Which one wanted to speak first?
Lieutenant, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So once again, I'm Lieutenant Amy Parker Staten. I'm commander over the Park Rangers. I have 1 police sergeant that works for me and 5 Park Ranger sergeants. The staffing table right now is for 31 Park Rangers total. That includes the supervisors. Some were taken from us doing city control and just over the last couple of years. I'm currently 7 Park Rangers down, so I only have 24 at this time. We do have an open requisition to continue hiring, but we face some issues with Corona pay and different things that are going on right now. I've been here almost 3 years under the Park Rangers division. Well, 2.5. It'll be 3 years in June. What I was informed of is when city took control in 2013, it's some kind of, I guess, charter or ledger that says there can only be one, I guess, arresting agency or something in the city, because the Park Rangers used to be their own police department where they had the chief, the major, and all the other positions. When the city took control, at first they did have powers to write summonses in the parks. And then the city updated with new systems and report writing systems, which the Park Rangers were never implemented into. And then also with having them like in a court group or getting things where they can go and testify to the summonses they wrote. So those powers were stripped away before I got here. Right now, the only thing that they are authorized to do is to write parking tags. They can detain, the power to detain. And then the police department will have to respond to take the official action, as they don't have access to any of the report writing systems. As far as being post-certified, at one time, I'm understanding that they were post-certified. I did reach out maybe about a year ago because to get them, to try to start getting them post-certified or see if some of their posts was still active. And at the time I was turned down by the commander or colonel that was over the department, over the Park Rangers department. So they are basically civilian employees with security licenses that do carry the same weapon as the police officers, but basically the powers are limited where they have the power to detain and take action if absolutely necessary, as far as using deadly force or mace and different things like that. But no, they do not have the power to arrest. Currently, we have the 109 parks in the city. We have the 7 rec centers. Everything is not staffed at this time due to staffing shortages. They do work 3 shifts every day, 365 days. They work 3 shifts, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and 11 to 7. The 7 to 3 and the 3 to 11 shifts rotate every 28 days, and the night watch is the permanent shift. I'll stop right there and see if you have any other questions in regards to the staffing or anything that we have to do.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Isom or Lieutenant Amy Parker Staten at this time?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, I'll go ahead then. So we have 24 officers right now. Is that what the number you just gave?
Yeah, we have 24 park rangers and we're authorized 31.
Okay. And you're running 3 shifts. How many on a shift?
It just varies. So 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. And then I left out 1 shift too. We do have what we call another platoon, which those rangers are assigned to the rec centers. So they have a shift also. So we have platoons A, B, C, and D platoon. Right now on A platoon, looks like I have 6. On B platoon, it looks like I have 7.
So
On C platoon, it's a 6, and then the remaining 1, 2, 3, 5 is on D platoon.
So we roughly have 6 park rangers. How many of them are permanently assigned to Forest Park on that 6? And how many?
So no one is permanently assigned to Forest Park. We're located inside Forest Park. We have duties that we have to do every day in Forest Park, but on the daily schedule, they may be assigned to, we have other responsibilities as far as locking up restrooms in Lucas Park, North Riverfront, locking up stuff inside Forest Park, going to the rec center. So we have roll call and they pick up their vehicle that they're assigned to that day. And then we also have a dispatching system, I guess you could say, in Forest Park, because we do not go through the 911. We have our own park ranger that answers the radio and dispatches the calls and answers the calls for Parks and Recreation.
Well, one of the things I remember is we voted and we added a park ranger, and there's supposed to be a permanent park ranger in O'Fallon Park. And
I'm
pretty positive.
not aware of that.
I can go back and get that resolution. That was one of the concerns was, I can tell you in the parks I represent, we don't see park rangers. Out of how many parks did you say? 190?
109. There's 109 city
parks.
parks and 7 rec centers that we're trying to cover with 24 park rangers.
Well, with 6
And
on a
no-
shift.
So yeah, no, it's not 6 on every shift. That's 6 assigned to the platoon. However, people have off days or vacation. So at any given time, it may be 3 And that's including one in the dispatching base and then 2 that's on patrol at one time. Some days there's 3 on patrol at one time and 1 in the dispatching base. As far as O'Fallon Park, I have never heard that in the 2.5 years I've been here, but we do run a detail in the summertime for Fairground at O'Fallon Park on Saturdays and Sundays with the 6th district. So we run a detail, I think it starts about 4 o'clock in the evening and it goes to about 8:30 when they shut down the park in the summer months in O'Fallon and Fairground Park. As far as the other 109 parks, there are also parks that are on our list on a daily basis. And then I'll get calls from alder women and men and several district captains will reach out to me where they're running some kind of operation that they want us to check on this park for a week or 2 until they can get this combated, or, you know, they want us to check on it and then they'll notify us again if it becomes a problem. But no, we're not able to go to 109 parks every day.
And I'm not saying you don't do a good job. I know I've called at night when trees are down and it goes to the ranger station and, you know, you're severely, grossly understaffed. Can't tell me that 3 are any presence of, you know, whatsoever. And I would imagine that Dr. Dan, you know, has the authority, or I know the police chief should have the authority to grant them the arrest powers. Am I right about that, Commissioner Dan?
I'm not sure. Well, it's a couple of things that would need to happen, and I would defer to the lieutenant because she's been there for 3 years and she, you know, certainly knows more about this than I do. But one thing I do know is that whatever would be authorized from the city, there's still the requirement from the state
Sure.
to be post-certified. So you can't do anything and be an official police officer unless you're certified by the state.
No, I understand that, but why wouldn't we want to get people post-certified if that was, you know, if that were the case? Why, you know, why we wouldn't want to do that?
No, I don't disagree with you, Alderman. But as the lieutenant indicated, there are some city charter or ordinance rules that prohibit that at this time. So, you know, I'm not against them having more authority, but at this time, the structure doesn't allow for that.
I will, I'm going to kind of yield back, but I'm going to look, because if it's something in the charter or something in the rules, my understanding was that the chief, and I'm sure Alderwoman Tyus probably knows the answer to these things, and she's up next anyway, but my understanding is that the chief of police, and I know we've changed the commissioner now, but the chief of police, I thought, always had the authority to, you know, and since they're under the police, like the marshals, because they're now under, everything's under the police department. But it's something I you know, I'm not, you know, I will say I don't have 100% of knowledge. I will get my knowledge. But I would think we'd want to give them more authority. And I think somehow or another, you know, having 3 on any given shift to cover 109 parks, or just even, I think you'd need more than that just in Forest Park. But, you know, and I'm going to look up, because I know that one of the things we did do was to get a ranger in O'Fallon Park. But I'll look up that. If the clerk, Terry, are you still on this Zoom call? I guess he's not. I'll find out and I'll get you a copy of that. So anyway, I'll yield back, and I think Alderwoman Tice may even have some of the answers to some of these things. So I'm gonna yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Alderwoman Tyus.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I'd like to make a couple of suggestions. I know there were some snafus and things that were not considered when we took over the police department. Everybody pushed that, but again, people don't know all the things buried within our charters, our civil service rules, our admin rules. So then when that happens, everybody goes, oh, I didn't know that. One of the things that did happen, and it's in the charter pretty specific, is we lost a city marshal. We kept the marshals and they went under the police department. But we actually, the city marshal, and the charter is very specific, and that said that if the police department ever took the if the city ever took the police department back over, that the marshal itself would cease to exist, and that's why the marshals are now under the police department. I would suggest that we get a city councilor's opinion as well as a personnel opinion about how we would go about changing this if this is something we so desire. If we want to change and make park rangers post-certified, and of course that would mean additional pay. And if Dr. Isom is not objective to that, then that's, to me, we go to personnel and we go to city councilor. The city councilor will give us a opinion as to why things changed, because as Lieutenant Staten said, they used to have that power. So something happened in the transfer that we need to get specifically. I kind of know in the back of my head, but I don't want to say because it may not be correct, but we should get a city council opinion, which you could ask for as the chair of this committee. And then we also should ask the Director of Personnel to write us opinion about how we could get the park rangers post-certified and additional pay. And we also should request that Dr. Isom give us, he and his staff give us their opinion on if that would be a good idea or not. All written for me. That's just my suggestions.
I'm sorry, this turned mute and unmute. Anything else, Alderwoman Tyus?
No, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderwoman Navarro, do you have anything?
Yes, I did have a couple of questions. And if you wanted to go, I don't know if other folks on the committee do, if you wanted to go in order, I don't mean to jump rank here.
I'm trying to read. So Alderwoman Martin.
Thank you. Sorry, I was late due to a conflict. So I have Carondelet, South Square, Belle Reve, Alaska, Sister Marie Charles. South Square, Sister Marie Charles, and Belle Reve are all just known for open air drug use, prostitution, a lot of what other aldermen deal with. How do O'Fallon and Fairground get those additional patrols? I just missed that part on how that is determined by calls, the service, or?
So from what I understand, when I was here, the O'Fallon Park and the fairground detail was already going on. It was a grant that was put in place by Captain Marks, but she's now in the 2nd district. It was a grant that was put in place that they were able to get additional funding to pay overtime for the district officers and the park rangers to cover those parks on the weekend. I also have my sergeant present with me. So if I'm looking back and forth, he's been here.
Oh, that's fine.
I've been here a little 2.5 years. I think he's been here about 4 years now. So.
Okay, that's helpful. And then when, and I'm sorry to make anyone repeat this too, but when I logged on and heard the additional dispatch. So when I call, 911 for, let's say, Carondelet Park, and I say that I've called in a few times to say, like, there's something going on at the playground, and I give them sort of the, that's it, the whatever corner of the park, or I try to give them, the block number that it faces on Loughborough. And I call, and the dispatchers will refuse to take that as an address. They say, well, that's not an address. We can't send anyone out. You have to give an address. Well, obviously the park doesn't have an actual address. So that's one issue. But let's say even I get, they accept the call and they say they send someone out. That just goes straight to the police, right? It's completely.
Yes. Sometimes they will contact the ranger base, but the best thing, if there is something that is not like 911 urgency, and what I'm talking about, like someone shot or needed immediate assistance or something like that, if there's continuous drug activity or something like that, I would suggest calling the ranger base, because it goes directly to a park ranger that is manned or staffed 24 hours a day. And also when the phones are turned off from the administration building, as the other alderman mentioned, after hours, we take the down tree calls, we take all other calls that are based on parks and recreation after hours.
Okay, all right, that's helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're
Madam
welcome.
Okay, Alderwoman, is that it, Alderwoman Martin?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you. Yeah, one of my questions was about that dispatch system, so that helps clear that up a little bit. In terms of and thank you so much for everything that you do. When I hear the numbers of folks that you have covering our parks and the number of parks we have, I mean, I just can't imagine how, you get to all of those. So thank you. And I think anything we can do, as other aldermen have mentioned, to rectify this issue that we have in terms of making sure our rangers are equipped and authorized to do what they need to do, I think would be really helpful, and happy to support that. In terms of the daily schedule, I know it sounds like there are certain facilities that just need to be locked and unlocked every day, but how much are calls for service considered in determining that daily schedule?
So the day watch tends to have a couple more people here sometimes. So the day watch, I would say, as far as focusing on Forest Park, may be a little bit busier. So it's taken into consideration the afternoons. It has to be, the day watch is not, I guess you could say, as important as the middle shift. So once you go to the 3 to 11, that's usually when people are waking up and getting busy, and it tends to be more things that happen within the parks in their bulk time before the sun goes down and the parks close. Myself, I have put out to my supervisors that they cannot drop below 3 park rangers in the afternoon watch unless approved by me. Now, I know emergencies come up. We're in the midst of a pandemic and stuff like that, but staffing is taken into consideration, especially up the middle. Now, the night watch does sometimes work with 2, if approved by me, because they come in at 11. The parks close at sundown, and then Forest Park closed at 10 o'clock. So everything is kind of shut down. They do have where sometimes they get the alarm calls at certain parks or buildings, because we do respond to parks and recreation buildings also. So not only are we in charge of the parks and the recreation centers, we're in charge of some of the other buildings that falls under parks and recreation. So to answer your question, it's taken into account in the middle, where I'm here a lot during the day, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, 7 to 3, where if we're short a ranger, I don't mind stepping up, and my sergeant doesn't mind stepping up during the day also.
Great, thank you. So that sounds like kind of like during the day monitoring things, but do we ever sit down and say, look, it seems like there's a bunch of activity week after week happening in a couple of hot spots, and then, proactively say, hey, can you make sure to cover these parks today, because we've been seeing a lot of calls for service the last couple of weeks? Does that happen, or is it too short-staffed and we're just putting out fires every day?
It does happen sometimes, but it does go back to the staff. But it varies. Believe it or not, it may be one park for 1 week, and once they see that we're sitting there or we're coming by 3 times a day for that 1 week, they'll move to another park. So then we have to move to that other park wherever they decide to go. So, or it'll be one day that one park just had some activity, and the next day when we get the notification and go, nobody's there anymore. So it's kind of hit and miss. I'm not saying we do not have the parks that are constant, because like I said, I think Condolet was mentioned. O'Fallon and Fairground actually have calmed down a lot during the day. Like I said, the weekends are the hot spots for them. And I guess that's why they were able to get that grant. But it's a day-to-day thing. It's never like a complete schedule of, we know this is going to happen here this day or that day. With the addition, like I said, we do have the couple of parks that we have on a daily basis, because it's a constant thing with them.
Thank you. I just have one more question. In terms of getting the additional ranger spots filled, and I don't know if this is a question for you or for personnel or somebody else, but what sorts of things are we doing to try and fill the spots that we do have authorized?
So the only thing that for my position that I do is that I submit a request to the chief to fill the spots. He's already approved that. It goes over to the Department of Personnel, and I wait on them to send me the applications for the people that have filled out. The problems that I've seen over the 2.5 years is, okay, for example, with the city taking control, we get applicants that have an intense criminal record. I hear you guys talking about posts and different things. I'm not going to hire people that have an intense criminal record. They're not going to pass posts, and they are not going to be able to carry a gun and do some of the things that and get a security license, the things that are required even by the park rangers being civilians. So I'll get the applicants, and the problem I run in, say I have 7 openings. Okay, they may send me 10 applicants because that's all they have. These people have not did a background or anything like that. So now I'm stuck with these 10 people. So once I run these 10 people, I have to go through this list and eliminate them and send a special memo, even if they have a background. They're not automatically just dropped from the list. As you know, I think somebody has to be on the list 5 times, and if they're not hired, then they'll drop off. So they're taking up a spot until the Department of Personnel decides that they'll drop them off the list, which requires me to write that memo, which I've wrote several times to get people off the list so I can get another person to replace them. Another thing is it takes a minute. So it might be 2 to 3 months on applications that I received, I think a couple weeks ago. Those were filled out in maybe June or July. By that time, people have got jobs already. And then the rate of pay is a major concern with the $15 an hour. I mean, Chick-fil-A, White Castles, McDonald's, everybody's starting at $15 an hour, but you're giving the park rangers the authority to take somebody's life if they have to be in danger. They're wearing a uniform. And then sometimes we're not getting competent people because they're not doing the testing anymore because of COVID. So it used to be 2 tests that you had to take. And then it would be a first set of interviews, which would include a park ranger and the human resource department. And then I would be the last step. So a lot of people would fall off from the test that wasn't qualified. A lot of people would fall off from the first interview process that wasn't qualified. But right now I hate to say it, all the garbage comes to me and I'm weeding through it, and they're still on this list until I can eliminate them. And that takes a while for me to get another group of applicants, which then that's 3 or 4 months that these people have got another job. I think one of the major things is pay. And then the people that are taking this job, the park rangers, it seems like the ones that we can retain are people that have retired and had a good career somewhere because they need maybe medical insurance. They're going to come to work. They have a work ethic, and they don't want to be at home bored. We do have some younger ones, but those younger ones, I'm sure they're going to move on to something eventually. This is just something to get them in the door as a stepping stone.
Great, thank you. That was a lot of really good information. I appreciate it, Lieutenant. I think just one comment that I have for this group is that there's so much more that we can do for public safety in our parks outside of police and rangers. And it would be really great for us to think about some of those things. I mean, some of that is the design of our parks, making sure that people have easy access. The more people, the more families who are in our parks, there's a lot we can do just by having more eyes and ears, out there using them. But if people don't feel safe, then they're not going to be out there, and it creates this whole cycle. So I would love at some point if we could, dive deeper into a more kind of an analysis of, safety in our parks and look beyond just rangers and police officers, because I think there's a lot more that we could learn there and a lot more that we could do that would really benefit the community. So, but I appreciate everything that you all are doing, and I have no other questions, Chairwoman. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Todd, do you have anything?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a question. I want to know what does the park ranger do at 11 o'clock at night to 3 o'clock? Why can't I guess I'm leading up to why can't some of those be on a 3 to 5 shift? What do they do?
Okay, so the park rangers on the night watch shift from 11 o'clock. So park curfew is at 10. So when they come in at 11 o'clock, those park rangers are making sure that everybody is out the park for curfew. There is some events that take place past 10 and 11 o'clock that people get special permits for. So it may be something at the World's Fair, the Muni, or somewhere else. Those things have to be shut down after that's left. They also lock up certain restrooms in Forest Park. They go down the North Riverfront. They're in charge of sitting on the twin lots, which is by the visitor center. They do that at 6 o'clock in the morning. The other duties is the alarm calls they get. the accidents that may happen within Forest Park or in a park, the vandalism. We have people breaking into, we've had people that broke into the fairground storage facility that's inside Fairground Park. They respond to that. They have the after hours contact information to contact all these entities, Muni, Prosteen, different places like that. They actually last week called maybe a couple weeks ago, the burglar at the Muni that broke in the back door of the Muni and burglarized that. So they're there for patrol, but they also have other duties that occur all night between 11 and 7.
Okay, thank you very much. I would just like to make a statement to the Board of Aldermen, the committee men and women, as well as the park ranger. If we had activities in the park, supervised activities, year round, that would cut down with supplies and equipment. First, it would pay for itself because people would be healthier. They would learn not to be using drugs and other trying to change, and they would have more trying to change how they feel, and they would have, and maybe we could teach them to have more respect for their body rather than putting any old thing in it that they don't know what's in whatever they're putting in it. Anyway, the main thing I think we need is more things, supervised activity, because if you had supervised activities just leading up to the park ranger supervisor, could if you had activities, couldn't they call park rangers or the police if there was an emergency?
Can you repeat that? You said it. Can they
I
call
said
who?
if there was an emergency, couldn't the park, if you had supervised activities in the park, couldn't the supervisor call the park rangers to and get help, or the police?
Yes, but who are you talking about? What supervisor? So if can a supervisor call the park
I'm
ranger or
talking
the
about,
police to
I'm
get help?
saying if you had a park supervisor, let's say if you had recreation in the park, basketball, jump rope, volleyball, dodgeball, checkers, double dutch, whatever kind of girls and boys game and women and old people's games you have, and board games, square dance, and anything that you have fun doing that's not all this other crazy. That's really, we should get back to the basics of just enjoying ourselves without going out of control and need. But anyway, the main point is if we had someone who was paid, a professional, paid the same as the police, $100,000 a year, and it would pay for itself, whereas the police, you can't even get them. We over-policed. Got all these police, $100,000. Some people voted to give them $6,000. Some other folk voted to give them a raise and another $1,000. You can't even find them. So my point is, what we got to do, first of all, if the police don't straighten up their act, we need to just dismantle it and let the neighborhood groups, like I have 7 different neighborhood groups who talking about SBDs. Now they need to take the money from public safety instead of raising the taxes on my constituents. That's the first statement. But getting back to the business at hand, what I mean by supervisors, a supervisor is a person like me. I was teaching school. I would take the kids out and they would play games. That's all. I mean, I was supervising them. So when they're out there doing things, and it's, first of all, the drunks and the drug dealers would find some other place to go. They're not going to be out there dealing drugs and doing other things that are against the law in most cases. If you have counter activities to those issues, because even a drug addict and a drunk is another human being. They just have addictions. They're human, and they respect people. They just have a frailty like myself and many other people have frailties. Mine is not drugs, that form of addiction. I'm not perfect, but I'm just saying, my main point is that we had activities that would cut down on, that would, first of all, make the park safer. I'm just saying that to the board. But the other thing seems like you need more staff. If you had more staff and we shifted the staff again from the police department, public safety, I'm not just picking on the police, and I'm not anti-police. Because I pick it at every department except the police department right now. I've been kinder to the police than all other city agencies since I've been alderman and Democratic committee man. So I'm not saying so I don't want anybody to say I'm anti-police. But what I am is anti-wasting my taxpayers' money and my constituents' money ineffectively. And this is totally ineffective when we could shift some of those police officers to the park rangers duties to the park rangers department and give them the same money, but they need to be out there amongst the people. Invisibility, I want to ask the park ranger supervisor, do you think you could make your rangers more visible?
I can only do what staffing allows. So we are, people do request us for community events. We're at Wold Rec Center where you just did the library, the stuff at the libraries. We did a trunk or treat in the park. So we are visible at community events when requesting and staffing permits, but it's very hard to be present and doing these activities or playing board games and different things like that when I don't have the staffing to cover the day-to-day activities. We've had park rangers that were on chess club that go to the rec centers and play chess. We ask for volunteers. We have park rangers that mentor. We have, as well as police department that go to the juvenile building or Missouri Hills, which is the DFS building and different things like that. But things are cut short when we can't even answer the daily calls. Another thing is we do offer overtime, but when the park rangers are being paid $15 an hour and you have their secondary employer that they can work on their off time, paying them $30 to $40 an hour. And if they work overtime for the park rangers, that's only going to be $22 an hour. They're going to go to the $40 and $30 an hour. The St. Louis Public Library raised where they pay $30 an hour for the park rangers and the police department to work secondary. So if it was something that was probably more enticing for them to work overtime and take care of home first, they probably would work the overtime here instead of going to the different other facilities. I know that Walgreens and Home Depot are allowing the secondary, and they're paying $50 to $57 an hour to work secondary. So we can't compete.
Well, my other thing is that while they are up there trying to up there playing checkers, like the police do the same thing. So I'm not just picking on you out there talking about some public relations. Police should be giving out some tickets when they out there running stop signs, and we would not be wasting all this alderman money. And to your situation, saying that they are mentoring people, I think that they should, and that they're playing checkers and chess and stuff. I think they should be riding around doing their job. I think the biggest problem with your group, and I'm gonna be just crystal clear, and the police, they go around. I know they used to come to my ward meetings. Oh, we doing public relations. We want to hear what the problem is. We're going to be out night out. No, they should be out there giving some tickets, and we wouldn't have to be spending our automatic budget on all these speed humps, speed bumps. And I wouldn't have to be spending $1,000 when I get my car fixed for somebody running around on the right-hand side because I stopped at a stop sign. So that's my point, is I think your agency should just have people out there patrolling rather than the public relation gimmicks and patrol and just do their job. I'm not asking, and if you need some more people, being the supervisor, I think you should just step up and say, I need some more people and we need a raise. And that's what you should be advocating. That's how you solve a problem. Now, if they don't give you the raise, if the city are telling you, tell them they need to shift some of the police or somebody or some of the other departments who are not doing anything to do some work for the citizens' tax money.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you,
I don't have
Alderwoman
anything else
Todd.
to say. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
I return this to back to you.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't have any questions, but I do have some comments. I want to thank you, Lieutenant Parker Staten. We haven't met, but thank you for your responsiveness to the issues that were going on. I don't want to be specific about them, but the way you help the constituents over there in those parks when we call and we pay the calls to you, it made all the difference in the world. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your staff and your team, not only with the patrolling of the parks, but also I appreciate the community outreach, because the children, for example, at Woe have a relationship with the Rangers that are there and in and out of Wall, and it makes a difference. So
Thank you.
thank you for all the work that you all continue to do, and just know that you have my support 100%.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Alderwoman Peel.
Thank you, Chairwoman Boyd. I do not have any questions. I just want to thank you for bringing the staff of the park here. You have enlightened me in terms of the situation and, you know, what things that we are facing in terms of staffing all over the city. So thank you.
You're welcome. I see we have other Alder people on the call. Alderman Boyd, did you want to say anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to appreciate the Rangers for what they do. I think that, you know, people just kind of overlook the Park Rangers, almost like they're the stepchildren, but they do provide quality service, and I certainly appreciate them. And I think they should be connected to the community. So I appreciate you playing checkers, chess, or whatever you can with the kids, so they know that law enforcement is there to help and support them. So thank you, Madam Chair, for that opportunity.
Thank you. Alderwoman Christina Grassi.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I don't have any questions, but just wanted to echo my colleagues' appreciation for the Rangers, especially on the budget that you are.
Can you show your face, Alderwoman and Grassi? We like to see your pretty face.
That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Lieutenant Staton, thank you for being at the hearing today. And I also appreciate what you're doing, but it's real transparent. As we had said earlier, you all are like other departments. Your challenge is through personnel, and your challenge is getting staff. And like I stated earlier, I think the park rangers' responsibilities have changed. And referring back to Alderwoman Tyus, I was one of the ones that was opposed to the city taking over the police department, because I knew it wasn't a plan in place that would make the transition smooth for people to be able to do the job. And so now this is what we're up against. We have park rangers that don't have the power to do what needs to be done. You all are put in difficult positions. You're short staffed, and it's unrealistic to even think that you could have 5 people to cover 109 parks. And I think my challenge is with Forest Park Forever, they have the dollars that I feel that they could contribute to help you guys, because you do play a role in that area. In regards to not only North Parks, but South Parks, Central Parks, that's a lot of parks to cover to address issues that's within those communities. And so it has to be looked at as a partnership with the police department and the parks. And I just feel as the park committee, we probably need to start doing the research, talk to the personnel department and the city councilor on how we can improve the situation for the park rangers. And I guess my question, the marshals, do they play any role with you all in regards to the parks?
No,
So
ma'am.
the more, I was
sorry.
gonna say, so let me say this. So during the last couple of years, the marshals we put out overtime to them. Not so much this year, but the 2 years before. So I'll say in 20 and 19, they have assisted us with the pools. So the pools that open during the summertime, we've offered overtime, and we've had maybe about 5 or so that'll come assist us where we pay overtime with them for them to cover the pools during the summer, so the kids will have something to do at our 3 pools.
Okay. So is this, and if you had I put it this way, I'm a 1, 2, 3 person. If you had a 1, 2, 3, a wish list, your number one priority would be what?
My number one priority would be pay for the Rangers.
Okay.
And then it would be staffing.
So you don't
number
feel,
3.
okay.
Go ahead.
You don't
I'm
feel
thinking.
if because I kept hearing you and Dr. Isom talk about they hadn't been trained, or they don't have the training as, and he has mentioned something about, and somebody else could jump in if they remember, they would have to go through the academy in order to be trained.
Post certification.
Yeah, post certification. So you don't think that would help them in any?
I don't think that would help them to be motivated. So that would be my third thing. So pay,
Okay.
staffing, and training. Because I don't think if you put training first, that's going to motivate them, because now you have them doing more for the same amount of pay or less pay that you're paying a cadet or somebody else that works part-time.
Okay, okay,
So yeah, that would be my three.
okay. Sergeant Valentine, you've been kind of quiet. You got it in for a second and then you kind of shut you down. So do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I've only been quiet because all the questions have been directed to the park rangers. I have 20 marshals assigned to me, and some of you know the marshals that work at City Hall. And like Lieutenant Parker Staten has pointed out, pay is one of the major arguments that we hear, not only from incumbent marshals, but those that we interview. And like Alderman Ty pointed out, with the $100,000 or whatever that we don't make, you kind of get what you pay for. And nobody wants to be paid that $15 to get abused. When you come into City Hall, a 15-20 market, particularly City Hall, people are not happy because they're coming to pay bills most of the time. So they subject the marshals to a lot of abuse. And when people see that, they don't want to subject themselves to that abuse, sometimes even fist fights for $15 an hour. So that is one of the major issues that we have with hiring people. I'm down 4 marshals. The Manning table says that we should have 23. I have 1 supervising marshal, 19 marshals under her. One of my marshals is currently assigned to full time for now to the Justice Center. And once the courts open back up, it'll be game on as usual. They're getting, the courts are getting the live scan, which they just told me that they'll need a marshal dedicated to running the live scan, and then we'll have to have marshals in court. So as Lieutenant Parker Staten pointed out, pay is a major issue. Then manpower and training. We have started, or at least we requested to at least have our marshals get continuing education training, even though right now they're not post-certified, just to expose them to some of the training that we get as police officers. They won't be rewarded for it, so to speak, meaning they won't get credit added to their state licensing board or whatever, but at least they will, starting next year, we're asking that the police academy will allow us to send our marshals, however many we can send at a time, to be exposed to some of the continuing education training that we receive to keep our post licenses active.
Okay. All right. This was a lot of information, which was great information. Alderwoman Evans, I see you pop back on. Did you have anything?
I would just like to thank the speakers that you have today for giving a lot of informative information. And I see that there's a lot more to being a park ranger, or a lot of things and activities that go on in the lives of a park ranger, which I am grateful for that information. The only question that I have is, as far as you made a comment that the marshals, if they went through the training, it would not be added to their, for lack of a better word, portfolio. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So the training that we're trying to expose them to, because I'm a police officer and police officers get the police officers standard training that's post. which is what keeps us licensed as police officers,
Mhm.
we're required to do that. The marshals will not be required to do that. They will be acknowledged, by way of a sign-in sheet, but there's no reason really for them to go to the continuing education classes. However, we're going to send them anyway, just to make them more aware of what we do and make them more knowledgeable of what we do. Sometimes in the past, when I hire a marshal, if I recognize something in them, I will push them to go to the police academy to become police officers. So this will be a stepping stone. The police department is undermanned, and a lot of citizens might want to be police officers, but are afraid because of public opinion. So maybe they'll start off as a marshal, and with the exposure to continuing education and allowing them to see what it is that we do and how we do it, maybe they will be more enthusiastic about saying, hey, well, how can I go from here to there? Which, I'll lose a marshal, but at least the police department will gain one. So that is our plan to, if I recognize the talent, then I will encourage them to leave the marshals and go to the police academy. But again, we want to expose them to what it is that we do. For one, to lift their morale, because they quite often felt that when the city took over the police department, that they were obsolete. And we got a lot of pushback from the marshals, thinking that we would come in and fire them and bring in old retired policemen to take over the marshal spots. So this will, while it gives puts a little bit more on their plate, at least they'll have a better understanding of what it is that we do, how we interact with them, and help them to do their job better.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant Valentine.
Sure.
One more question. How do you, the marshals, how do you select them for taking the additional police training? Do they volunteer for it, or do you select them, or what?
No, we're not going to select any particular individual. We will, it's going to be new to us, getting them to the CET training, but we will make every attempt to schedule every one of them for the training, not anyone in particular. We want them all to be exposed to the training. The issue is just finding the time between what's required of them daily and being allowed to pull them out of that and have someone to cover while this particular one is in training. So that's what we will work with that as we get into it. But our intention is to have them in training as much as we can, and as frequently as police officers go. We'd like to have them attend the training too.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and Sergeant Valentine.
Sure.
I relinquish.
Thank you. Okay, on that note, do we have any, again, I want to thank you all for attending, and I'll probably follow up with you to see how we can support you from the Parks Committee's piece to help empower you all and improve the whole process, because I just think with the whole local control, that was all lost in the process. And so I'm with Alderwoman Tyus and Alderman Bakari. We need to probably contact the city council and personnel to see how we can work with you all to help strengthen that and make it better for you all, so the marshals and the park rangers don't feel like they're not appreciated. So I want to thank everybody that has attended. Do we have any announcements? Anybody have any announcements they want to make? Okay, so on that note, I'll call for the meeting to, somebody can call for the meeting to be adjourned.
I'll make the motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, could Do I call roll? Okay.
No, just all in
Okay.
favor.
All
All
in
in favor?
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
All opposed?
Anybody
Gotta do both.
opposed? Okay, I see it's no opposed, and so we now adjourn the meeting of streets. Thank you.